I grew up on Star Trek, the original, of course. My favorite character was Leonard Nimoy as Spock, devoid of emotion, but offering hope with his iconic words, "Live long and prosper." I looked forward to those words in each episode as a child looks for the fortune inside the fortune cookie. I smiled as I watched Spock raise his hand in the Vulcan greeting, imagining he just granted a blessing on me. Live long and prosper extended for generations prior to Mr. Spock, making it a popular saying. It originated as a popular Jewish blessing. But what does it really mean? Live long and prosper equates do well, succeed, and thrive. That sounds simple, doesn't it? As a teenager, I once sideswiped another car with my mother's brand new car. Part of the punishment for harming a car in our home was to repair the car. This was justified because my father owned his own body shop. My father, seeing the damage, simply stated, "Go fix it," and turned around. Justly angry, I stomped out of the house and I slammed the door behind me. What? Go fix it? I had no clue how to even start. I stood beside my mother's car looking at the damage as if the dent would miraculously pull itself out, simply by giving it an evil eye. Dragging my feet back into the house, I humbly petitioned a very angry father, "How do I fix the car?" He smiled and retorted, "I was waiting for you to ask." We spent the next several hours repairing the damage on my mother's car. I learned from this experience. I learned a lot of things from my father that day, but I mostly learned to continually ask, how? So how do we live long and prosper? I think of it simply as health and wealth. How do we enjoy health and wealth? The basics of health haven't changed much over time. It really falls down to four things: proper nutrition, regular exercise, sleep, and avoiding stress. Slotting each of these items into a daily schedule at times might seem daunting, but it's highly personal. My job is not to judge, as we each need different things. For instance, I love cilantro, and I could easily find a way to incorporate it into all of my recipes. But my brother, who's allergic, would definitely not have it part of his proper nutrition. As I get older, I learned that proper nutrition is about the individual. So maybe instead of calling it proper nutrition, we should call it personal nutrition. For me, health is simply being able to do what I want because my health allows it. When I was younger, I ran a half marathon. I don't really want to do another one. I've also climbed a 14er in the mountains outside of Colorado, Denver area. Again, don't want to do another one of those, but I do want to run around with my children. One day I want to wrestle with my grandchildren, and I want to take long walks with my spouse. I want to travel. As my life changes, my exercise routine has also changes. And so now I'm seeing that it's more needs versus wants. Sleep and stress go hand in hand for me. I think as I age, I find I have less stress as I get older. I express to my children the reason is simply that as one ages, one cares less what others think. There are times when stress does become a burden, and I have a list of stress cutters. These are personal for me. These are the items which make me feel good and alleviate my stress. So create your own stress list. This is what's on mine. Quiet, calming music. I like piano music, not words, just tunes. Journaling, long walks, hot showers. And then when I'm void of stress, I can sleep well. I can sleep easily. But I also know I need 8 hours in order to make me happy. What about wealth? Wealth is relative, isn't it? I sat in a conference. The speaker asked everyone who was wealthy to raise their hands. I looked around. No hands. The speaker then started asking some questions which changed my perspective drastically. If the answer was affirmative, we were to raise our hands. I don't recall the exact questions. I was too enthralled with the statistics to write them down and the information, but it went something like this. I want you to think about these. How many of you make more than $10 a day? How many of you can read and write? How many of you enjoy electricity in your home? How many of you own more than one pair of shoes? I looked around the room, and of course every hand was raised by now. Everyone in the room made more than $10 a day, could read and write, had electricity, and owned more than one pair of shoes. To make this more relevant, let's look at the statistics associated with each of these questions. So 80% of the world's population makes less than $10 per day. How many can read and write? Over 1 billion people in the world cannot read or even write their name. If you enjoy electricity, think about the 1.6 billion people, which is about a quarter of our population, that live without electricity. And if you have more than one pair of shoes, I want you to think of the over 300 million children in the world who do not have a single pair of shoes. Now ask yourself, are you wealthy? If you're reading this, you are definitely wealthy. Wealth is relative, isn't it? As I recall Spock's blessing, live long and prosper, I'll add a little extra leaven to my life by falling on my knees morning and night and thanking God for my health and wealth.